Warning: what I am about to tell you could save your life, because there is something that millions of people over 60 do every single morning, right before they go for their walk, that is silently setting them up for a stroke. And the worst part is, they think they are being healthy. They think they are doing everything right. Margaret, 67 years old, a retired librarian from Portland, sat in my office just 3 months ago, trembling, and told me, "Doctor, I do not understand. I walked every morning, I ate my vegetables, I did everything I was supposed to do, and still this happened to me." And when she told me what she was drinking every morning before her walks, I knew exactly what had gone wrong. I am Dr. Michael Harrison. I spent over 40 years as a physician, treating thousands of patients just like you, and in all those years, I have seen patterns emerge that most people never notice, patterns that connect seemingly innocent habits to devastating outcomes. What I am about to share with you today is one of those patterns, and it is something I wish I could tell every single person over 60. If you are over 60 and you drink this before your morning walk, you need to hear what I am about to say, because in the next few minutes, I am going to show you exactly what this drink does to your brain and your blood vessels when you combine it with physical activity. I am going to introduce you to 6 patients who learned this lesson the hard way, and most importantly, I am going to tell you the one simple change that can protect your brain starting from this very day. Let me tell you about Margaret. She lived in a quiet neighborhood with tree-lined streets, the kind of place where neighbors wave at each other and everyone knows your dog by name. She had been a librarian for 38 years at the local public library, helping generations of children discover their love of reading. When she retired at 65, she made a promise to herself that she would stay active. Every morning at 6:30, rain or shine, Margaret would lace up her walking shoes and head out for her 2-mile loop around the park. Her grandchildren called her the healthiest grandma they knew. But there was something Margaret did every single morning that she never thought twice about, something she considered completely harmless, something she had been doing for decades, and on that terrible Tuesday morning in October, it nearly cost her everything. Margaret told me, "Dr. Harrison, I woke up that morning feeling wonderful. The air was crisp, the leaves were changing colors, and I remember thinking it was going to be a perfect day for a walk. I made my usual cup, drank it quickly because I was running a bit late, and headed out the door. The first 15 minutes felt normal. I waved to my neighbor Frank, who was getting his newspaper. Everything was fine. And then, about 20 minutes into my walk, I noticed my right arm felt strange, like it had fallen asleep, but would not wake up. Then my face started tingling. I remember thinking, this is odd. And then I was on the ground, and a neighbor was calling 911. What Margaret had been drinking that morning, and every morning for the past 40 years, was something that seems completely innocent. But when combined with physical activity in people over 60, it can be like pouring gasoline on a fire that is already burning. You see, your blood vessels are like garden hoses. When you are young, they are flexible, soft, and they bend easily. Water flows through them smoothly, no matter what. You could step on them, twist them, put them under pressure, and they would bounce right back. But as you get older, those hoses start to stiffen. They become more like old plastic pipes that have sat in the sun for decades. They cannot flex the way they used to. They have become rigid and brittle in places, and when pressure builds up inside those stiff pipes, bad things can happen. Now here is where it gets dangerous. This particular drink that Margaret was consuming, it causes those already stiff pipes to squeeze even tighter. It is like someone putting their hands around that old garden hose and gripping it hard. The opening gets smaller, the flow becomes restricted, and then when you start walking, when you start exercising, your heart starts pumping faster, your muscles are demanding more blood, more oxygen, more pressure builds in those pipes, and those pipes are already being squeezed. Imagine turning up the water pressure in a hose that someone is already choking. What happens? The weak spots start to fail, the hose can burst, or, even worse, the backed up pressure can cause the gunk that has built up inside over the years to break loose and travel to places where it can do serious damage. That is exactly what happened to Margaret that morning. And she is not alone. Let me tell you about Robert. 72 years old, a former truck driver from Detroit who spent his career crisscrossing this country hauling freight. Robert was a big man with an even bigger heart. He had driven over 2 million miles in his lifetime, seen all 48 continental states, and could tell you the best diner in every major city from coast to coast. After he retired, he started walking 3 miles every morning because his doctor told him it would help with his blood pressure. Robert was doing everything right, or so he thought. Robert came to see me after his incident, and he sat there with tears in his eyes and said, "Doc, I have been drinking the same thing every morning since I was 16 years old. It started when I got my first job at the loading dock. It is how I stayed awake for those long hauls across the country. It is how I started every single day for 56 years. Nobody ever told me it could hurt me like this." Robert had been walking on a beautiful spring morning when suddenly he could not form words. His wife Barbara was walking beside him as she did every morning, and when he tried to say something to her about the cardinals singing in the trees, what came out was gibberish. She told me later that the look of confusion on his face was the most terrifying thing she had ever seen in 47 years of marriage. 20 minutes before he had finished his large morning drink, the same one he had consumed religiously for 56 years. Here is what most people do not understand. After 60, your body does not process things the way it used to. Think of your liver and kidneys like the filters in an old furnace. When the furnace is new, those filters clean the air beautifully. Every particle gets caught. Every contaminant gets removed. But after 60 years of use, those filters are clogged, worn out, and they cannot do their job properly anymore. So when you put this particular substance into your body, it stays in your system longer, it hits harder, and the effects last much longer than they did when you were 30. Now combine that with exercise. When you walk, your heart rate increases, your blood pumps faster, your blood vessels need to expand to handle the increased flow, like opening a door wider to let more people through. But this drink tells your blood vessels to do the opposite. It tells them to constrict, to squeeze shut, to narrow down. It is like trying to push a crowd through a door while someone is actively trying to close it. The pressure builds on one side, people start pushing harder, and eventually something has to give. The pressure builds, the walls of your blood vessels strain, and if there is any weakness, any plaque buildup, any tiny damaged spot from decades of wear, that is where the failure happens. That is where the stroke begins. Dorothy, 68, a grandmother of 5 from Cleveland, who spent her whole career as an elementary school teacher, experienced this firsthand. Dorothy was the picture of health. She had maintained the same weight since she was 35. She walked every morning with her best friend Linda, whom she had known since college. They had been walking together for 15 years, covering thousands of miles, while catching up on gossip, talking about their grandchildren, and enjoying the sunrise. Dorothy looked at me and said, "Dr. Harrison, I never missed a morning. Rain, snow, heat, it did not matter. And every morning before I walked out that door, I had my drink. It was my ritual. It was how I woke up. I never in a million years thought it could do this to me." Dorothy's stroke happened 3 weeks after her 68th birthday. Her granddaughter had just given her a beautiful new walking jacket, bright red with reflective stripes for safety. She was excited to wear it for the first time. 25 minutes into her walk, Dorothy suddenly could not see out of her right eye. Linda said it was like watching a shade being pulled down over half the world. By the time the ambulance arrived, Dorothy had lost feeling in her entire left side and could barely speak. "What is this drink that I keep talking about? What is this substance that Margaret, Robert, and Dorothy all consumed before their walks? What is the thing that millions of people over 60 put into their bodies every single morning without realizing the danger? It is coffee. Strong, hot, rapidly consumed coffee. Now before you throw your hands up and tell me that coffee is harmless, that you have been drinking it your whole life, that you heard it was good for you, let me explain exactly what is happening. Because it is not just coffee, it is the way you are drinking it, when you are drinking it, and what you are doing immediately afterward. The coffee itself is not evil. In moderation, with proper timing, it may even have some health benefits. But the combination we are talking about, that is where the danger lives. You see, coffee contains a powerful substance called caffeine that acts like a key to certain locks in your body. When you drink it, especially quickly, especially on an empty stomach, that key turns several locks at once. It tells your adrenal glands to release stress hormones. It tells your heart to beat faster, sometimes 15 to 20 beats per minute faster. It tells your blood vessels to squeeze tighter. It increases the pressure throughout your entire cardiovascular system, and it does all of this within 15 to 20 minutes of when you drink it. For a 30-year-old with flexible blood vessels, this is not a problem. Their pipes can handle the extra pressure. They bend, they flex, they accommodate. But after 60, those pipes are different. They have been through 6 decades of wear and tear. They have stiff spots and weak spots. They have buildup on the inside, like mineral deposits in old plumbing. They cannot handle sudden pressure spikes the way they used to. Think of it like blowing up a balloon. A new balloon is stretchy and forgiving. You can blow hard and it just expands, getting bigger and bigger. But an old balloon, one that has been blown up and deflated many times, one that has sat in a drawer for years getting brittle, that balloon is different. The rubber has lost its elasticity. Blow too hard too fast, and it does not stretch, it pops. Your blood vessels over 60 are more like that old balloon than you might want to believe. Now here is the critical part that puts everything together. When you drink your coffee quickly in the morning and then immediately go for your walk, you are creating a perfect storm inside your body. The coffee has already squeezed your blood vessels tighter. Your heart is already beating faster from the stimulant effect. Your blood pressure has already risen, and now you add exercise on top of that. Your body needs more blood flow to your working muscles. Your legs are demanding oxygen. Your heart pumps even harder to meet that demand. The pressure in your already constricted blood vessels spikes even higher. This is when strokes happen. This is when the weak spots fail. This is when the plaque that has been sitting quietly on the walls of your arteries for years breaks loose and travels to your brain. This is when everything goes wrong. I had a patient named Walter, 70 years old, a retired postal worker from Kansas City who had walked the same route for 22 years. Walter was meticulous about his health. He took his medications at exactly the same time every day. He kept a food diary. He never smoked. He never missed his morning walk. But every morning Walter would drink 2 large cups of black coffee in about 10 minutes, then head straight out the door. Walter told me afterward, grabbing my hand with intensity in his eyes, "Doctor, I thought I was being healthy. I truly believed that. I thought the exercise canceled out any harm. I thought because I had been doing it for so long without problems I was fine. Nobody, and I mean nobody, ever told me about this combination." Walter's wife Sarah found him slumped against a tree 2 blocks from their house. He had been walking for less than 15 minutes. The right side of his face was drooping, and he could not lift his right arm no matter how hard he tried. The paramedics told his wife later that if she had found him even 10 minutes later, Walter might not have survived. Here is what I need you to understand about what happens during a stroke. Your brain is like a house that needs constant electricity to function. Every room, every appliance, every system depends on that steady flow of power. Cut the electricity even for a few minutes, and things start to shut down. The lights go out, the refrigerator stops, the furnace fails, and unlike a house, you cannot just flip the breaker back on. When parts of your brain lose blood flow, they start to die. And dead brain cells do not come back. There is no reset button. There is no repair kit. What is lost forever. Every minute of a stroke, approximately 2 million brain cells die. 2 million. That is not a number I made up. That comes from research at Harvard Medical School. 2 million cells every 60 seconds. That is your memories. That is your ability to speak. That is your capacity to recognize your grandchildren's faces. That is your skill at buttoning your own shirt. All of it can be stolen, 1 minute at a time. And most strokes are preventable. Most strokes happen because of things we do to ourselves without realizing the danger. But here is the good news. Here is the part I always love to share with my patients. The solution is so simple that when I tell people, they almost do not believe me. When I told Margaret the change she needed to make, she looked at me with wide eyes and said, "That is it? That is all I have to do?" And I told her, "Yes, that is all. You do not have to give up coffee. You do not have to stop walking. You do not have to take any special supplements or medications. You do not have to buy anything or change your entire lifestyle. You simply have to change the timing. The one change that can protect your brain is this. Wait at least 60 to 90 minutes after drinking coffee before you exercise. That is it. That is the entire solution. 60 to 90 minutes between your last sip of coffee and your first step on your walk. Let me explain why this works and why this specific timing matters. After you drink coffee, the levels of caffeine in your blood rise rapidly, peaking around 30 to 60 minutes. During this peak, your blood vessels are at their most constricted. Your heart rate is at its highest from the stimulant alone. Your blood pressure is elevated. This is the danger window. This is when your cardiovascular system is most stressed, most vulnerable, most likely to have a problem if you demand more from it. But here is the beautiful thing. After about 60 to 90 minutes, those caffeine levels start to drop significantly. Your liver has had time to process the caffeine. Your blood vessels begin to relax. Your heart rate normalizes. The intense squeezing effect loosens its grip. Your pipes go from being gripped tightly to flowing normally again. And now, when you exercise, your body can respond properly. Your vessels can expand when they need to. Your heart can pump harder without fighting against constricted pipes. The system works the way it is supposed to work. It is like the difference between trying to run through a narrow alley versus running down a wide open street. The 90 minutes gives your body time to clear the obstacles. It opens up the pathway. It lets your cardiovascular system function without fighting against itself. Patricia, 64, a retired nurse from Baltimore who had spent 40 years caring for others, learned this lesson and it transformed her life. Patricia had worked in cardiology for most of her career. She knew more about heart health than most doctors, but even she had never connected these dots. She came to me after she had experienced what doctors call a transient ischemic attack, a mini stroke. She had been reaching for her walking shoes one morning when her left hand suddenly could not grip them. The fingers would not close. It was like her hand had forgotten how to work. The weakness passed after about 3 minutes, but it terrified her to her core. Patricia told me, "Dr. Harrison, when you explained the timing, it was like a light bulb went off in my head. I had been doing this wrong for years, and I should have known better. Drinking my coffee while I was getting dressed, finishing it as I tied my shoes, and walking out the door. I never connected the two things. In all my years of nursing, nobody ever mentioned this specific combination. I told Patricia to keep drinking her coffee. I told her to keep walking, but I told her to separate these two activities by at least 60 to 90 minutes. She could drink her coffee when she woke up, then read the paper, do some light housework, and then go for her walk. Or she could walk first thing in the morning, then come home and enjoy her cup afterward as a reward." 3 months later, Patricia came back to see me for a follow-up. She had a spring in her step and a smile on her face that I had not seen before. She told me, "I have not had a single scary moment since I made that change. Not one episode of weakness or numbness. I still get my coffee. I still get my walk. I just do not do them back to back anymore. It is such a simple thing, but it probably saved my life." Think about what is happening in your body when you make this change. It is like giving yourself time to prepare for a race. If someone woke you from a dead sleep and told you to sprint 100 yards immediately, your body would struggle. You would be stiff, tight, unprepared. Your heart would race to catch up. Your muscles would cramp. You would be fighting against your own body. But if someone woke you up, let you stretch for an hour, let your body warm up naturally, and then asked you to run, you would perform so much better. You would feel better, and you would be safer. Your blood vessels work the same way. The coffee creates a kind of tension, a tightness, a readiness that is fine when you are sitting at your kitchen table, but dangerous when you start demanding more from your body. The waiting period lets that tension release, and then your walk becomes a health boost instead of a health risk. James, 73, a former construction foreman from Phoenix, had been skeptical when I first told him this. James was a no-nonsense kind of man who had built buildings with his bare hands for 40 years. He had arms like tree trunks and a handshake that could crush walnuts. He told me, "Doc, I have been drinking coffee and working since before the sun came up, since I was 18 years old. That is 55 years of the same routine. You are telling me I have to change now." I told James about Margaret, Robert, Dorothy, Walter, and Patricia. I explained the science in simple terms. I showed him diagrams of what happens to blood vessels when they are suddenly stressed. And finally, I told him this: "James, you built structures that had to stand up to earthquakes, storms, and decades of use. You know better than anyone that materials change over time. Steel rusts, concrete cracks and crumbles, wood warps and weakens. You would never expect a 50-year-old building to perform like a brand new one. Your blood vessels are the same. They are not the same materials they were when you were 18. They need different care now. They need you to work with them, not against them." James sat there quietly for a long moment, looking at his weathered hands. Then he nodded slowly and said, "You know what, Doc? That makes sense. I would never treat an old building the same way I treated a new one. I would inspect it more carefully. I would stress it less. I would give it extra support. I guess I should not treat my old body the same way either." James made the change that very day. He started drinking his coffee at 5:30 like always, but instead of heading out to walk at 6, he would read the news on his tablet, call his daughter on the East Coast, and maybe do some light stretching in his living room. Then at 7, a full 90 minutes later, he would go for his walk. 6 months later, James told me that he actually felt better on his walks than he had in years. He said, "Doc, I used to feel like my heart was working too hard, like I was pushing against something invisible. My chest would feel tight for the first 10 minutes. I always figured that was just normal for a man my age. Now everything feels smoother. I feel like I could walk forever. I wish someone had told me this 20 years ago." Here is what I want you to take away from everything I have shared today. Coffee is not your enemy. Walking is not your enemy. Both of them can be part of a healthy life. The combination at the wrong time, in the wrong way, when your body is over 60, that is where the danger lives. That is the specific situation we need to address. Your morning routine does not have to change dramatically. You do not have to give up anything you love. You do not have to sacrifice your pleasures or your habits. You simply need to create space between these two activities. Drink your coffee, enjoy it, savor every sip, but then give your body time to process it, time for your blood vessels to relax, time for the intense effects to subside. Read a book, call a friend, do a crossword puzzle, water your plants, watch the morning news, and then, once that 60 to 90-minute window has passed, go for your walk. I think about Margaret often. After her stroke, she spent 3 weeks in rehabilitation learning how to use her right arm again. She had to relearn how to button her blouse, how to brush her hair, how to hold a book the way she had held thousands of books in her career. She missed her granddaughter's piano recital, the one she had been looking forward to for months. She could not help at the library book sale she had organized for 15 years. But Margaret was lucky. She recovered most of her function. Many people do not. Margaret called me last month. She had just returned from a walk with her granddaughter, who is now 10 years old. She told me, "Dr. Harrison, I drink my coffee at 6, I read my devotional, I call my sister in Wisconsin, I do a little tidying up, and at 7:30 I put on my shoes and walk. It has become my new routine. And every morning when I am walking pain-free, moving easily, enjoying the sunrise with full use of both my arms, I think about how close I came to losing all of this. I think about how one small change saved everything. This information could save your life. It could save the life of your spouse, your sibling, your best friend, your neighbor. If you know anyone over 60 who drinks coffee and then exercises, please share this with them. Please have this conversation. Sometimes the most dangerous things are not the ones we worry about. Sometimes the danger is hiding in our most ordinary habits, in the things we do every single day without a second thought. You have the knowledge now, you understand why the timing matters, you know what that cup of coffee does to your blood vessels, and why waiting makes all the difference. The change is simple. 60 to 90 minutes between coffee and exercise. That is the protection your brain needs. Make this change starting tomorrow morning. Create that buffer time. Let your body process the coffee fully before you ask it to perform. Your brain will thank you. Your blood vessels will thank you. And 20 years from now, when you are still walking strong, still enjoying your mornings, still making memories with your grandchildren, you will be grateful that you took this one simple step to protect yourself. Because here is the truth that I tell all my patients. The best time to prevent a stroke is before it happens. Once those brain cells die, they do not come back. Once that damage is done, you cannot undo it. There is no surgery that can restore dead brain tissue. There is no medication that can bring back what was lost. But this simple change in timing, this is prevention. This is taking control. This is choosing to protect the brain that holds every memory you have ever made, every face you have ever loved, every moment that matters to you. Margaret walks every morning now, just like before, but she does it safely. Robert relearned how to speak clearly, and he changed his morning routine completely. Dorothy recovered most of her vision, though some of the darkness remains at the edge of her sight. Walter can lift his right arm again, though it took months of therapy and more determination than most people have. Patricia never had another warning sign after making the change. James feels better than he has in decades. Their stories are warnings, and they are hope. Warnings about what can happen when we do not understand the risks hiding in plain sight. Hope because the solution is so achievable, so simple, so within reach for everyone listening to this. 60 to 90 minutes. That is the number to remember. That is your protection. That is the space your body needs between your coffee and your walk. Remember it, live by it, and share it with everyone you love who is over 60. Your brain is precious. Your life is precious. Your independence, your memories, your ability to enjoy your grandchildren and your morning walks and your favorite music, all of it is precious. Protect it all with this one small change, and may your morning walks bring you nothing but joy, health, and many more years of beautiful sunrises. Take care of yourself.